And just like that, Nick Diaz is a contender at 170 again.
And Cody Garbrandt's got COVID. We're talking about both of them right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel. So we got some exciting MMA news. We saw a picture of a very trim, very svelte Nick Diaz, and his manager said that he weighs somewhere between 165 and 170 pounds. And then Cody Garbrandt has obviously tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
So we wish the best to him. But let's start off with the headline of the day, in my opinion, which is a nice skinny picture of Nick Diaz.
Absolutely.
With the promise from his manager that he's fighting again in 2021.
Wow.
Now, here's the deal. Nick Diaz is always must-watch TV.
Without a doubt.
No matter what his record is, even though it's 0-2-1 in the last, since 2012, I believe, he's not won a fight.
Yeah.
So that said, I don't care. I don't think you care. I don't think anybody cares. Nick Diaz is must-watch TV.
And we were at that one. We were at that against
Anderson Silva. Yeah, ended up ultimately later becoming a no contest. It was 0-3, and now it's 0-2-1. Nick Diaz, in my opinion, is one of the best jiu-jitsu players in MMA and one of the best pure boxers in MMA. At least he was when he was competing on a regular basis. There's no question that he's one of the most exciting fighters in MMA. Now, when we think about potential matchups for him and what the future might look like, what comes to mind?
Well, it's so funny to say that somebody who hasn't won a fight in God only knows how many years and is 0-2-1 since 2012, that they are still one of the top 10 biggest draws and shows in the UFC and MMA. But that is the case for Nick Diaz, and it's pretty cool that his brother also is. I'd say he's probably top 3. Yeah. But one post on Instagram puts Nick right back in the mix, and I think. Honestly, I was going through the 170 rankings and looking at all the top 10, top 15 guys. He, as big a star as he is, he's not interested in anybody that's not in the top 5 down there.
Yep.
And I would say there's only a few names that he's going to come out for. But if he's saying that he's ready to go, I guarantee Dana White makes one of those exciting fights happen.
Absolutely. And so the two names that come to mind for me when I think about this are obviously Jorge Masvidal.
Right.
There's a backstory there. And so it looks like they're going to make Masvidal versus Nate in January. So that probably won't be the one. But it would be kind of cool to say, hey, you beat up my little brother. Now I'm going to come and kick your ass type of thing. So that there's a fun story there. The other is Conor McGregor. So the reason that I didn't really picture Nick Diaz fighting Conor McGregor was because back in the day when that was being considered more seriously, Conor was mainly at 155, and Nick, his last outing was 185. So it just seemed like there was too much size and weight to make that fight happen. We know as of lately, Conor likes to play around in the 170 pool. And according to Nick's manager, if he's telling the truth, Nick's weighing between 165 and 170. So suddenly that fight doesn't seem so outrageous, maybe at a 165 catch weight or even just doing it at welterweight. What do you think about that?
Well, Dana continues to say that 165 won't become a division. I think eventually it will. I think if you're going to throw two guys in there to create some hype around a brand new division, it should be Conor versus Nick Diaz for the 165 inaugural title.
Nothing would make almost all fighters matter than that.
Oh, yeah, but who cares? That would do such great numbers. No, you're right. Masvidal and McGregor are the two top names that stuck out for me. And obviously, you've got your Kamaru Usman, I don't think that's who he's targeting right now. I don't really know if he's targeting a title shot. I think he wants to come in and be an entertainer, a big draw, and that's what he's going to do. But like I said, there's a short list of guys that he's going to get stuck in the cage with.
Yeah. And I'll add one to the list of names that would be a really tough fight, but it would be, boy, would that build-up be exciting, and that's Colby Chaos Covington.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine Nick Diaz versus Colby Covington, the press releases, or the press conferences and all of the media that build up would cause? That would be incredible.
Those two at a press conference would be insane. Another one is GSP.
Yeah.
Maybe GSP. I know he's looking at that Khabib title, but if Khabib fights Justin Gaethje and everything goes smooth, we're looking at early mid next year, because usually when you get in a fight with somebody like Justin Gaethje, you're not ready to just bounce back.
Yeah.
You have to take some time. Maybe George is a little bit eager to compete, and I think he would be favored to beat Nick Diaz. I think it would do massive numbers.
Yeah.
And it would be a good
it would be a rematch too.
It would be a rematch, and it would be a good introduction back into the sport for both of them.
Yeah.
And I know GSP has fought a lot more recently, but he's still got to shake the cobwebs off like Nick Diaz definitely does.
Yeah, with the thing with Khabib is he's kind of assumed the Floyd Mayweather schedule as of late. He fights in the spring and he fights in the fall.
Right.
And you don't see him any other time. Just call me twice a year. I fight in May and I fight in October.
And he's earned that.
And he's absolutely earned that. And so, like you said, I don't think that it'll be that George is just going to get right in there. And George is, he's got time running against him as well. He's up there pushing 40 himself, and he's in a lighter weight class than some of the other guys that are continuing to fight in their 40s. So I think that there's a lot of excitement for Nick Diaz. And as you said, I don't think he's really chasing titles. Yeah. I think the BMF belt would be more enticing to Nick than than the welterweight strap would.
Yeah. And, as you said, and I think you're right, it seems as though George Masvidal and Nate Diaz will be fighting. But if I could have seen into the future, and nobody knew until just the other day that he did a 14-week test cut in training camp and looked so good. We didn't even recognize him. At first, I was like, who is this? It looks great. Oh, that's Nick Diaz. I think if they would have known he was doing that, they wouldn't have booked Nate versus George. I think that they liked, the UFC being who I'm talking about, they liked the story of Nick coming and trying to avenge Nate's loss.
Well, what if they do it now? What if they decide, okay, now this changes everything. That fight's not quite signed yet. Conor needs a dance partner.
Right.
The trilogy fight's always there. Why don't we make Nate versus Conor and then Nick versus Jorge for the BMF title? That gets Nick in there for a title. Mm-hmm. Which, he's got to have something, whether you believe he deserves it or not. Nick Diaz isn't fighting for nothing. He's got to get paid, and there's got to be something on the line. Right. So that would solve that problem. It would be a huge payday. I think Jorge would absolutely take that, because that's a mega fight for him. And we know Jorge's trying to capture big money fights at this point, and there's a bit of a log jam at the 170 top of the heap there to get a rematch with Usman. So why not take a big money fight? I think Jorge in his mind thinks he would win that fight pretty handedly. So I'd like to see them slide Nate out of that rematch, because that rematch could always happen still. Insert Nick, and then give Conor a dance partner in Nate. Right. That solves all problems.
That's all, and it almost creates, in a sense, you have to take one fight out of it, but it creates a 4-man tournament for the BMF with two of the names being Diaz, which is really cool. Obviously,
they probably. I was just about to say they would never fight each other, but with those two, who knows? They probably would.
They're so loyal to each other. If they did that, I just think that they'd probably need to just create another BMF and give them both one, but.
Or let them tag team McGregor and Masvidal in like some sort of Chael Sonnen submission underground sort of rule set.
We might have to take this up to West Lynn. But no, I do think that you could have a cool tournament. And another thing that would fire up all of the 170ers, 155ers, 185ers out there would be if Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, Conor McGregor, and George Masvidal were all fighting for the BMF title type of thing. But I think that the BMF will get in George Masvidal's next fight will be contested.
I think so.
They said it's a one-off, but recently Dana in interviews and stuff like that has said that he wants to defend the BMF and he wants to do it against Nate, and he's kind of getting called out for fighting Nate again. Nate's number 13. He just fought the champ at 170. It doesn't really look great, and it's harder to sell. But I think if you take Nate out of the equation, I think Nate would willingly do this for his brother, only for his brother. and put Nick in there. And then obviously, sorry, Nate, you don't get to fight Masvidal, but here's Conor.
Yeah.
Sign him up all day. He's going to take that fight.
I like it. When Nick Diaz's name is being thrown around, it's, it doesn't matter that he hasn't fought in 5 years. It doesn't matter that he hasn't won since 2012, I think. If I'm wrong, it's 2011.
Yeah.
So almost a decade, probably will be a decade by the time he gets in there. He just brings a level of excitement to the sport, and the Diaz brothers, they're better when they're together. They're like the Bash brothers,
Super
from the
Smash
Mighty Ducks.
Diaz bros, yeah. And I think
hide your cans of Red Bull and your bottles of water at the press conference.
Oh yeah, an electric press conference. After the game has changed a bit since Nick was at the top of the heap and in everybody's headlines and everything like that. I think he has studied what's going on at these press conferences and these shows and stuff like that. And you're just going to get an awesome promotion for these fights, whoever he ends up
What
fighting.
if the January card was co-main event Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal for the BMF title, and main event Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz
for the 165
for the
title.
165? Yeah, you got to put a title on the line, or I guess maybe
BMF.
Masvidal would be the main event. I don't think any of the four of them would want to take the co-main event, but if you could figure out a way to make that work,
it would explode.
That would be the biggest card ever.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
That would be wild.
So it's a little bit early because we did just see that post from Nick Diaz. So we have to hear from him what he wants to do. Obviously, he wants to fight. I don't see him fighting, just off the top of my head, the Wonder Boy Thompsons of the world. I don't see him fighting Leon Edwards. I don't see him. There's really no beef there. But you can create some great topics and stories with George St. Pierre, Conor McGregor, George Masvidal,
and I think I would throw Colby Covington in there.
And Colby. Those are the fights that he's going to be coming out of retirement for. And I think he's earned the right to just step into one of those. And like you said, he's not going to be fighting for a title right off the bat, nor should he, but I don't think that's what he's in it for. He's one of those guys, like George Masvidal, like Conor McGregor, that's bigger than the title fight.
He wants money, he wants excitement, and he wants a good, tough opponent. That's the other thing. Like, they want, somebody like Usman doesn't interest him.
Right.
He's interested in somebody that's going to come to the middle of the cage and bang with him, because that's when he's his best.
And that's entertaining.
Yeah.
That's why he's hasn't fought in this many years and is still a top 10
That's
draw
why
in the
the
UFC.
Diaz brothers have a cult-like following.
Right.
And Nate, for all intents and purposes, has a journeyman's record, and Nick hasn't fought in 5 years, and they still have a cult-like following. So there's the Diaz brothers are must-see TV, and if you pair them with must-see TV, Conor, Colby, Masvidal, any which way you want to slice it, it's fun.
Yeah. And just like that, with one win for Nick, for Nate, for Conor, for George, they're right back into the mix.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 170 and 155.
If Nick goes in there and knocks out Jorge Masvidal, that's going to be a major undertaking for him to be able to do that. But, I'm not going to say that he can't do that.
Right.
And if he does that, then talk about people demanding to see him against Usman.
Oh, yeah.
And then it becomes a major fight, and maybe you do it at that point. But moving on to the other piece of news this week, unfortunately, Cody Garbrandt has tested positive for coronavirus. Luckily, I'll say fortunately, in an unfortunate situation, it's happened almost 2 months before the fight.
Yeah.
So presumably he's going to battle and overcome this and still be able to fight. My question is not so much does the fight go on. My question is, how does this affect Cody? Does it affect the outcome of the fight? Do you think he tries to postpone it, or do you think it goes on as scheduled?
I think Cody is tough as nails, so I don't think he wants to postpone. I think he's going to continue. I think he got lucky catching it so early, and he's a healthy young guy. He's going to battle it through. 2 weeks later, he's going to test negative, I'm sure. That's just how this goes for people for these young folks, these fighters. But I do see this playing a role in his weight cut, because if we're 2 months away, that means we're 8 weeks away. That means he has already started the body transformation that it takes to drop a weight class and start. I mean, even if he wasn't dropping a weight class, he would already be tightening up the diet for 135. And I think if you're dropping an extra 10 pounds when you have hardly any body fat to lose, every day, every meal counts.
Yeah.
And COVID-19, I've seen a lot of people lose a lot of weight, but that comes from losing a lot of muscle because they're not able to exercise how they want to, and that's more the severe case of COVID. I'm gonna assume that he doesn't have a severe case of COVID because he's a healthy young person that's always physically active and doing the right things to recover. But I can't help but think that this is going to play a role in his weight cut.
Yeah, and I will go even one step further. I agree. I think that he's going to battle this and get through it without needing hospitalization or anything of that nature. But I have been reading some studies and some articles that say that even if you don't have a severe case of COVID-19, that it can affect your stamina for a couple of months. Like your lungs are working at 80% capacity instead of 100, and your heart's, working a little bit harder. So, even if, and I don't know how much of that is true or not, but even if he doesn't have a severe case, if his stamina is compromised even by 5%, add on top of that, he's going down a weight class against a guy that's a monster, that's got knockout power at a weight class where people don't generally knock people out.
Right.
Then that could be a recipe that I think could affect the outcome of this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you're dropping down, Davison Figueiredo, people didn't really know about him. Now we know about him. Yeah. He is the truth.
If you don't know, now you know.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the skills that pay the bills, and he's going to come out there, and I think he could compete right now at 135 at the top of the heap. And this is perfect for him to kind of see and test the waters at 135, even though he's not going to 135, because I think he's going to look bigger than Cody in the cage when they fight. And Cody's did it hold on. No, it's still going. Oh, sorry, y'all. I heard something. We're just gonna let this keep going live. It's fine. I heard something. I thought it was the camera shutting off. God only knows
Chris
how bad
probably
we hate
cut that out.
Okay. Well, either way, I like it raw. I like it live. But yeah. So I think this is like a great way for Davison to see what it's like to battle with the top of the heap at 135. And I feel for Cody No Love.
Yeah, I mean, cutting down to 125 is no easy task. Battling coronavirus in the midst of a fight camp is no easy task. And then if you can get past those things, you have Davison Figueiredo to look forward to at the end of that's like your reward at the end of the tunnel. So
a nightmare at the end of a nightmare.
To say this is an uphill battle for Cody is an understatement. And I think it does make a difference in the fight, even if he doesn't get a severe case. I think Cody, one thing that he's proven his whole career is that he can be a bit of a head case sometimes. He tends to be his own worst enemy. He tends to get over emotional about things, and I hope that's not the case, but his track record would kind of lead me to believe that he's even if he doesn't have the severe symptoms of the disease, it is going to affect him mentally and his performance in the gym and his mental sharpness going into this fight.
Yeah. Well, I think he's probably just got to keep a positive mind, keep a positive mentality, because he did catch it early. Nothing worse than, especially in his situation, dropping an extra 10 pounds, cutting to 125, a division under where he usually fights, and then getting the fight called because he tests positive a week or two before the fight and can't fight. I think this fight happens. I think it happens on the date that it's scheduled to happen, and I do still think it's going to be a competitive match. But this definitely, if you're a betting man, if you're a betting woman, you might want to put a little bit extra money on Davison Figueiredo.
Well put. Well, guys, that's it for MMA news this week. It's some exciting things going on. We got Nick Diaz in the mix. We got Cody Garbrandt and his fight camp and battles with COVID. Let us know in the comments. Is there another contender, or not contender, is there another person you would like to see Nick Diaz fight that we did not mention? Maybe an exciting fight that slipped our mind.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and check us out where you listen to podcasts.
We'll be back later on this week with some more news, because I'm sure there's going to be some breaking stuff happening.
The cycles are continuous. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.